All righty, the stream is preparing. All right, we're good. There we go. All right, let's get it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to I am your host, Tyrone Bridges. Let's get it.
Welcome. Welcome, everybody. I am your host of I Thought You Knew, Tyrone Bridges, and I have I consider my two very good friends that are running for 14A District Court Judge. We have the lovely lady, Miss Fawn Armstrong, who's a repeat offender on this show. Say hi, Fawn.
Hello, thank you for having me again.
And all right, a newcomer, and I wish we would have got you on earlier, but I'm glad we got you now. A homegrown guy here, Karl Barr. Say hi, hello, Karl.
Tyrone, thank you very much for having me on. Good to see you as always.
All right, wonderful. Well, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Fawn and let her introduce herself once again, and also introduce her campaign in a few points.
Okay, this is about like a 2-minute thing.
No time. I mean, we're not rushing. We don't rush. We don't have no time, no script. I don't have anything.
No script. All right. Thank you again for having me. Hi, Karl. Good seeing you again. My name is Fawn Armstrong. I'm running for 14A District Court Judge. I've been a prosecutor here in the county for the past 10 years. I'm also a veteran. I was in the U.S. Army, the reserves for 8 years. I did one tour of duty in Iraq. That was August 05 to August 06. I was over there as an E5 sergeant in charge of some troops. And then I finally left the military when I had my daughter, because someone needed to stay home with the kid and not get deployed. But I left as an E6 staff sergeant. So I had a lot of different trainings and leadership programs as well through that. I have some experience doing civil work prior to being a prosecutor, but my goal back in law school was to be a prosecutor because I wanted to, the ultimate goal was to help victims. And now through this process of being a prosecutor for 10 years, I see that it's a lot more than just helping victims. A lot of defendants are victims themselves. Maybe not even just victims specifically of crimes, but victims of circumstance, perhaps, trauma from when they were younger, or substance abuse, a lot of things that affect human beings. And I think that one of the main goals at district court is to really reach people, try to address those needs, see where we can help, see where we can heal people so that they get on a better path. And so that's what I hope to do as your next 14A district court judge.
All right. Thank you. And we salute you for your service, and we thank you for your service. Karl, sir?
Thank you. So you may need to forgive Fawn and I for this forum, because not having the structure is very different than every other one that we've gone to, where there's 2 minutes for this and you have 2 minutes for your opening. So we're kind of it's perhaps more uncertainty, and hopefully it will go well, because we're used to rules and structure. That's part of our business. But myself, my name Karl Barr. I'm from Ypsilanti. I grew up in Ypsilanti. I went to Perry, Fletcher, West Middle, Ypsilanti High School. I believe that my roots and ties from that, as well as working here as an assistant city attorney for the city of Ypsilanti, are things that make me stand out as a candidate for the 14A2 district court position, which is in downtown Ypsilanti. I have prosecuted cases in the 14A2 district court. I have defended cases in the 14A2 district court, being criminal, as well as done both sides of civil cases, both sides of landlord-tenant. As an assistant city attorney for the city of Ypsilanti, I have done quite a bit for the community. I've cleaned up quite a few nuisance properties, drafted countless ordinances. I created a court, the Administrative Hearings Bureau, currently assisting the city, but we have most of municipal approvals through now to bring a 300-unit affordable and senior housing project on Clark Road, as well as a 56-unit affordable condo development on North Park Street. I have endorsements. I have the Washington County Democratic Party endorsement, a Planned Parenthood endorsement. I'm endorsed by the outgoing Judge Kirk Tabby, as well as Judge Pat Conlon, Judge David Schwartz, Judge Carl Fink, retired, and Judge Richard Conlon, retired. I'm endorsed by other city leaders, including incoming Mayor Nicole Brown, as well as Annie Somerville. Most of the endorsements, definitely all of the judicial endorsements that have known me, known my work product through what I have done in the courts, as well as for the city and advising counsel, which is a very public thing, and you're subject to a lot of public scrutiny to how you do it and what you do. I have worn that for 20 plus years now. My top goal is to rebuild trust between the community and the judicial system. It is of utmost importance for the citizens of the community to be heard and get fair treatment in court. I'd like to expand the use of specialty courts that focus on rehabilitation, community support, and to reduce recidivism. I'd like to reestablish the bench bar, which was a monthly meeting with a lot of interested officials, namely police, fire, Eastern Police, the court, public defender, the prosecutor's office, to work on problems in a collaborative way. As the next judge in 14A2, if public decides to elect me, I'll be keenly aware that it's my job to protect the defendant's constitutional rights and keep victims and the community safe. I believe in addressing the racial disparity in sentencing and reducing recidivism. I believe we can and must do better for communities, specifically communities of color. We must stop the era of mass incarceration. I have plans to work on the racial disparity in sentencing with regards to a yearly equity audit, and bring in specialty courts to work on the recidivism. I believe it is vitally important that the public have trust and respect for the judicial system and the laws applied equally. I will conduct myself and the court in a manner that will help create that trust and respect. My campaign website is carlbarforjudge.com. My email is carl@carlbarforjudge.com. My phone is 734-218-4582. It's the only phone it's my home phone, my cell phone. I've had it on most of my campaign literature and thousands of mailers. And I would ask people to reach out. I'd love to hear from the community what the community's needs are, because in my opinion, the judicial system should reflect the needs of the community, and also be very aware of how things have been disproportionate in the past. With that, I thank you.
All right. All right, Fawn, I know there's some cleanup that you want to do a little later, but we'll give you a chance to. And I want to change the topic a little bit, as take your hats off as judges or potential judges right now. Let's put our hats on as parents. The question that I have for the both of you as parents, what keeps you up at night thinking about the city in which you choose to serve? What keeps you up at night the most? That troubles you? What troubles you the most about the city you choose to serve? Fawn, ladies first, of course.
I think specifically about my community, and thinking about being a mother of a 13-year-old daughter who goes to middle school. The thing that scares me the most here, I would say probably the gun violence. I'm currently assigned to circuit court, so I deal with a lot of felonies, and a lot of my cases deal with especially young people and gun violence. And and I know a lot of it, there's a lot of psychology behind that of, people's brains don't really develop until like their mid-20s. They're acting rashly. They're not thinking about all of the after effects and the consequences and what they're really doing. But they're getting access to guns and they're firing them. I have several cases, and I can't talk too much about open cases, but I do have several cases that deal with young people shooting other young people, or people shooting into groups. And so there are now the wide potential of victims, people that could just be not involved in a house somewhere or in a car somewhere. And that includes our children. And I know that people in Ypsilanti especially are also concerned with gun violence. And I know that's why a lot of people carry guns. We have a lot of CCW cases going on, and the cops always say, hey, why do you have this gun sitting here? And it's because a lot of times they say, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I'm carrying it for protection. Right. And that's some of the thought process behind some of these, as soon as there's an aggression or an argument or some sort of disagreement, I don't want to be shot first. So I'm going to pull my gun first because I don't know, everyone could be carrying. It's a huge problem. And it really needs to be addressed as soon as possible in terms of age, right? We need to start addressing it middle school, in high school. And I know that my brother's keeper is doing a lot of work with that, with young people, with juveniles, and trying to reach them and with various programming. But district court doesn't deal with juveniles. They're going to deal with 18 years old and above. And they would still, even though CCW or gun crime is going to be a felony, the district court judges would still deal with those types of cases at preliminary examinations. So they'd still be dealing with perhaps bond issues, whether or not a case gets bound over to the circuit court. So a district court judge still is going to be dealing with these issues. And that it does scare me, not just for my own baby, but for all the parents out there. Everyone's worried about their babies. So that's something we have to make sure we can try to work with law enforcement, with the courts, with programs, with community organizations, to try to stop that violence. I was actually, there was a care walk, a peace and care walk, I believe, through West Willow a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And right after the walk, we just hung out and everyone was just talking. And that was something that they brought up, that there's a program where they have what they call elders and the youth. Mm-hmm. And they'll have meetings every other week, I believe, just to talk about, hey, kids, hey, youth, what can we do here? You know that there's violence, you know that there's fights. What can we do? How can we help? How are we going to reach people? And it was just an amazing one. There's so many people that care and want to help, want to change things, but also being able to speak to the youth and say, how can we help and what are your concerns? I think it's so important to have that open dialogue, and then just come together as a community to try to hopefully address that. And I think, again, at district court level, you can address it because a lot of, again, my cases dealing with this at circuit court, those defendants all had misdemeanor cases first, for the most part. I guess I can't say everyone, but for the most part, they did. And that was the opportunity where the judge could have really reached someone, right? Maybe that little misdemeanor case, maybe it's just a retail fraud, maybe it's just a malicious destruction, but something happened and we don't know. We just make sure the judges, they sentence you and then they don't see you again until you're in trouble. Nobody's following up unless you're in trouble. And that's a missed opportunity. The judge sitting there needs to say, I'm invested in you. I'm invested in your future. I care. And is this programming working? What are you doing with your future? Do you have a plan? How can we help you? There's just so many things that can be addressed if someone just cares and takes the time to do it. And I think if you reach people and you really show them that you believe in them, that could be the difference where maybe they're not going to listen to somebody else and pick up a gun, because maybe now they're going to think about their future and know that there's a plan out there and there's something bigger out there. So that was such a long answer, but that was my concern when you asked the question. Is in our community, it's gun violence.
Well, once again, there's no long answers. We ain't bound by any time unless y'all got somewhere to be. Carl,
Yeah.
your turn.
So I would echo the concern on gun violence. Another concern I'll bring up in a bit too, but to bring it to really, I think, paint a picture around this, but I have to be cautious about how to describe it because it's a case that probably will be coming before 14A2. But the young Imani Bates has been on Sports Illustrated, obviously recently in the news for allegedly having a firearm in his car or in the car that he was driving. And here we have someone that could be the next Michael Jordan or LeBron James, who I see as potentially being at a very significant crossroads with his life, much as I'm sure many other of our youth face a crossroads that may not be as significant, it may not appear to be as significant to other people, but they will reach that point where the decisions and what people do, what they, are going to affect whether step in a more positive direction for their future or have things that could hold them back. I would I would counsel Amani's attorney and family, and I think I'm not violating any judicial ethical rules by doing so, that he could be the biggest thing that could affect the youth gun violence in our community by coming out and helping his friends, our community members, to understand that if you pick up, if you of what could go wrong. And frankly, I do understand that their safety concerns. I think the bigger concern, frankly, which I would love the youth to better understand, is the risk of themselves for shooting someone. A boy in my son's scout troop, 16-year-old, a football player, was shot in the eye from his friend. I believe it was an accidental shooting. They got a ghost gun. I won't go into detail of something that could help others locate that in this forum. But there's serious concerns for the safety of the youth. And if they choose to pick up a gun, they're much more likely to harm their own future, potentially criminally, potentially civilly, hurt somebody, even if it is in self-defense, very likely to be sued. And I do not believe that guns are the answer to the safety for the youth. And I don't believe the problem can be fixed completely within the district court. This is a community problem that needs the community to step forward. I was at Park Ridge for a forum on the gun issues in Ypsilanti. At the council table, I hear the council member saying that he has his constituents, some of them, their kids are sleeping in the bathtub because they're concerned about the gunshots in the community. And around a huge room, and there were a lot of people there from the community. The police were there, a lot of elected officials, people from public housing, but there were only 3 residents. The people that most affected by this problem, there were only 3 in attendance. I would best ask, and I would contribute in every way that I can as a next judge, to work with the community to help the community bring awareness to fix these problems themselves. And I think I would hope that Imani Bates realize the peril to his friends for if they were choose to pick up, use, hold, be around, a gun and the danger that it could be to their future. Separately, I have concerns with the minors, and it wasn't that long ago, a young girl is, I believe, it went back and forth in jurisdiction between the city and the county, but was abducted, from her on her bike, and the crimes that are worse than what I would care to describe occurred, and we need to protect our children, and we need to protect them from predators, and we need to protect them from themselves sometimes. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. I feel that you both as parents understand that the urgency of doing something about gun violence, and there's no one magic solution. What's going to have to happen, I believe, the prosecutor's office is going to have to do some altering of his or her bail policy, and maybe be a little tougher, maybe be a lot tougher when it comes down to gun violence in the community. I don't know the facts of the young man's case, but in the event that there was a poor boy, an old poor young South Side boy, welfare-ridden family, get caught with a gun, why not he be a poster child as well? Nobody's fame should ever be able to outweigh the circumstances that they're in, but at the same time, it has to be an even board across. It has to be just like the Lady Justice, that balance of justice. And that's why it's so much reform around here now, because a lot of us is not receiving the fair treatment. I always speak about my situation. Karl, you know me, you've been knowing my history, my life. And, for a young man like myself, I'm just like duplicate of other young men that's coming up in this world, in our city, in our county, that are going to make bad choices. They're going to actually, hang with the wrong people. But what the temperature is in the community is going to help that child or that boy stay out of jail or stay away from your courtroom. First of all, there's nothing to do in Washtenaw County. There's in Ypsi, I should say, in Ypsilanti, we got more vacant fields than we have things to do. I would like to see more of our county, our prosecutor, and our judges thinking more of a program instead of guns. Let's show these kids how to build. Hammers, nails, good old fashioned, let's put them to work. You see, if they working, and if some of these dollars that's running around here in the county via grants, if we utilize them in the poor community properly, like I said, ain't no one program, ain't no one solution gonna fix all. But if we was to utilize the funding in the proper areas, then you will see a lot of reduction of crime. You can't put this on the back of any groups. Ain't no one group out there gonna do all this. I hear all these mentions of all these groups. I've been doing this since forever. I've been doing this since 1993. Even when the gangs came out, I've still been here. Stuff didn't change because people weren't on the same page. No matter what we do as parents, we're gonna fall off into this over and over again. And our babies are precious. We have to have some hard prosecution on these predators as well. That 11-year-old autistic girl was our baby. Fawn, that was your baby. Karl, that was your baby. That's our baby. That's our Thought You News baby. That predator should not see a day on the street ever, or he should be barred from coming in the city or Washtenaw County. He came from Detroit to do what he did. And yeah, the information was shared on this show. And it was sickening. But I was speaking to you guys because we don't have a platform. We don't need a specific platform. I'm talking to you guys like you're a human being. Like, people really want to know who these people are going to sit behind these benches. They want to know if you're human like them. That's all, you know. So any other comment on anything that I missed as far as what keeps you up? Go ahead, Fawn. You can go ahead.
I just was, while you were speaking, something kind of like popped in my head as well. And it's something that I've said before, but I think it bears repeating. But, you know, everyone reads a lot of news. There's always like big news cases, right? And you would see things around the country where maybe it's a rape case. These are like kids in college, and it would always make the news because it would be some, you know, preppy from a good family, Caucasian white boy who had raped some woman, some girl. And it made the news because it was always the judge giving them a probation or just, you know, a couple, like a 30 days in jail or something. And everyone was up in arms, and they would say, what happened here? And you'd listen, and the judge would always say, you know, well, he's got such a bright future and we don't want to ruin his future. And that was all. It's always in those news reports, is that's the excuse behind it. And I would always say, well, we all of our kids, right? They have a future. Like you said, all these poor Black kids in Ipsy have a future, right? They have a bright future. So I think a lot of it is one, someone believing in you, right? So somebody stepping up and saying, you know, you can do this. Because I was from a poor family as well. And it was hard. I didn't have no one in my family had ever gone to college before, ever. And then for me to even, you know, my mom was like, you should be a lawyer. I couldn't even process it, because I'm like, no, rich people are lawyers. There's no way I can do this. I mean, that's one of the reasons I joined the Army eventually, because I said, oh no, I actually have to pay for this. And the Army was going to help me with that, because I didn't have a lot of options. I was going to have to do it on my own. But it was just my mom saying, you can do this. And I said, okay. And I think that's what we can do with people also at the district court level, is find that person's motivation. I had a motivation too. I had a bad stepdad who was very abusive. And I know my mom, she was raised in foster care. You know, when we were younger, she was working at Kroger. My dad worked at Ford's on the line. And, you know, we were living in a trailer. We didn't have things. We didn't have money. And she, you know, fought her way up. But at one point, you know, I love you, Mom, if you're watching, but she did. She married a guy because we were about to lose our house, and it seemed like a very good option at the time, and he would help us. And then he changed and was a bad guy. He's a bad guy to me. I'll leave it at that. But I remember being a kid, and that was my thought process, was one day I will never be put in this position where I can't leave a man. I will never be in this position where I depend on somebody so much that I'm in a bad position, my kids are in a bad position, and things are bad. And that was my motivation. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to go to school, and I'm going to get a good job, and I'm going to support myself, because that was my motivation. And I think we can give that to kids, to young people. And I say kids, but I mean, this is even 20-something-year-olds are kids. But just say, what is it? What do you want? Maybe it is building. Maybe it's doing something with your hands. Maybe it's making music. But what do you want? What do you want to do? What's your motivation here? And this is the path, and you can accomplish it. I believe in you, right? Instead of this one where there's no good ending here. Sorry, that was just that popped out on me.
No need to apologize. I told you, we're comfortable unless one of y'all got to run. Like I said, we just having a good conversation. Carl, anything that you would like to add?
Touching on you mentioned Amani and bringing his name, and not to say that his crisis is more important than others in the neighborhood, but I think because of how well known he is, that he would be a very good candidate to affect others, to help influence his peers, if he so chooses, to try and bring this issue out to be helpful for the community. I, with regards to the youth in the community, Judge Simpson is working on, I believe it's close to deployment, a youth docket, and obviously not a juvenile docket, because that's a different court of younger offenders, but from ages to be 17 to up to, I believe, 26, that would work on pairing them with mentors, and it's basically creating a new, specialty court for these kids that are maybe in the eye of the law in that court an adult, but aren't thinking with the same gravity that older adults may be about what their actions are, and to help mentor them and get them on the right path. I would be have talked to him, as well as Torture Feasters, helping him with that, and about that it would be deploying that both in Judge Simpson's courtroom as well as a 14A2 courtroom if I am elected. I also want to mention, with regards to some of the problems that bring into the community, in my experience and through working with the Gateway Committee on cleaning up the problems on Harriet Street, is that it became pretty apparent that the problems were being predominantly, the vast majority, promulgated by people that didn't live there, that were coming into the community to create the problems. And I think that is something that will be looked at with a very close eye in the event that I were to be elected. And with regards to the bond and safety issues, if people are coming into our community to create problems for our community, that will be, may get some more strict treatment than others. Certainly not making a promise that would be that I would to be used against me by way of the judicial canons, but will be looked at very closely.
All right. All right. As we go again, another off the topic question, but doesn't have anything to do with any judge. It has something to do with you as a parent, you as a resident, you as a citizen here in Washtenaw County. What do you guys feel about the license plate reader program? Seeing that, let me put this in there, that the information from another city that was used in the license plate reader program, they actually helped the detective catch that predator who kidnapped that 11-year-old autistic girl we were speaking about in 1 hour and 4 minutes. That technology helped. Once again, I have to repeat that. Now, I was against it for a minute, but then I heard, in protecting that baby, the license plate reader program in another city helped capture that individual. So on that, what do you guys feel about the license plate reader program within the city, within the township? And I don't want to keep on throwing it to Fawn first, but Karl, if you want to defer to her first, or if you want to take it first, it's up to you.
I'm happy to dive into this one, and we'll be treading carefully, because it is a somewhat political question. Okay. It's a policy question, right, of which that the Ypsilanti Township Board is considering that policy, and neither Fawn or myself should be treading into policy. We can certainly explain some things about it. Mm-hmm. The city of Ypsilanti passed an ordinance, resolution, or no, actually it is an ordinance forbidding So the city law in Ypsilanti forbids anyone to have that. And believe the reasoning behind that is that it is that type of surveillance is too intrusive, and that we have constitutional protections for how much we are to be surveilled. But yes, the other side of that, yes, if we did have more mass surveillance, people could be located more quickly, and it could help solve some crimes faster, and that could help with regards to safety. But our criminal justice system is set up with a presumption of innocence and with many constitutional protections. And so I think the real crux is the balancing of those those concepts, and where people may be more of a political question. I believe the county prosecutor there's a significant concern with pretextual stops and the considerable racial disparity of people that have been prosecuted by, but where they're being pulled over for a minor offense, and then the things, keep becoming, finding more and being arrested, and horrible worst case scenario that we've seen much in the news with shootings of police officers of predominantly African Americans. And I'm sorry, I'm perhaps treading a bit from your question, but I think these are the real concerns in our society. The Ypsilanti Township Board will have to make that decision. From what I can tell, the majority of the township voters don't seem to be in agreement with that, and but it will be up to the township board of whether to employ it, and then I suppose after that it will be up to the voters to decide how in favor or not they are.
All right, Fawn.
Yeah, I think it's, I understand, I think some of the concerns behind it, because, and that's what you said too, the first thing seems, you're concerned because what is the thing? Absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? Anything can become abused. And that's something that we definitely don't want. We don't want to have cameras everywhere for an improper purpose, like Big Brother, we're just watching you walk your dog, or catching you littering, or catching all of you, not all of you, but just people speeding, or not using their turn signal. And just, if you're going to use a program like that, it should be used because of serious cases, and only for that. When there's perhaps a murder, someone with a gun, you're trying to perhaps prevent public harm to the community. When you're trying to find, that would go in line with those Amber Alerts. If we're trying to find a car, everyone gets those Amber Alerts where they say, look out for this plate number, look for this plate number. And I'll be in bed and I'll look up, I'm like, there's no plate numbers here. But we're all at least aware of that. But man, if there were cameras there being able to capture a vehicle going from here to here, maybe we can find that child or that missing person sooner. So I understand that there is concerns, but I also see that there could be great benefits. I know that there are a lot of different cameras placed in Ypsi because the cops do use those. They are not great cameras. They are very blurry. They don't see plates, but sometimes they're using them, and they'll have again, they're not doing this for regular retail fraud. They're doing this for gun violence and for homicides and shootings. And so one of the officers can look at cameras and see if the vehicle's going in one direction or another, so that perhaps the cops can find them. And that would be a huge tool to, again, hopefully prevent further violence from happening. So I do see both sides of it, but I do see that it could be a huge benefit. And it's, again, something that is kind of already in place in some of the places in Ypsi. And one of the biggest concerns too about Ypsi is that there's not enough cops there. The Ypsi PD does not have the funding to have enough officers. And when they do get officers, they don't have the benefits and the salary to keep quality officers. Officers will maybe start there, or they'll come from Detroit. They'll get their training, right? Because you can get, if you work for Detroit PD, then you can get a free police academy. So they'll go to Detroit, they'll get their training, then they'll go out of Detroit because, you know, IPSI PD will be better for them, better benefits and salary. And then they come to IPSI, and eventually, you know, they're going to want to jump ship because they're overworked, their hours are crazy, and there's not enough of them. So when there's one call, the officers are there, there's the second call, there's not enough time for them to get there, or enough coverage for them to get there. So the cameras would potentially, I could see, assist with that. Luckily, you know, we do have a sheriff who has agreed to have his have people in different departments deputized to go through different areas, so that the deputies can come in and help, and EMU PD can come in and help with YPD. But it's very difficult for them to cover everything. So I definitely think that there could be a benefit to the cameras.
All righty. Well, my goodness, enough of the cameras. Just on some light notes, just on a real light note, I know you guys work real hard in campaigning, knocking doors and all that. Just a real light question for both of you. What are you guys having for dinner tonight?
I stopped and got 2 slices of pizza from a gas station because I had a victim meeting at 3:45 for a trial coming up in 2 weeks. And then I had a doctor's appointment over in IPSI at 4:30, and then I had to get back here for this meeting. So there's a party store down the street on Michigan Avenue, because I'm like right out off IPSI in Pittsfield Township. So there's like this little party store.
The one you're talking about.
They have good pizza, and
Right.
I ate it right here, and I gave the dogs some pepperonis.
Okay, all right, Carl.
I will figure that out when I can get out of my office and catch up with my son, who's at water polo. My youngest is at Skyline, is a junior. He does water polo and swims, and he's just coming off of COVID and getting back to water polo. I haven't seen him a week because I thought, well, with my campaign obligations, maybe it'd be better. He's spent the last week with his mom while he's been recovering. So once I get out of here, I'm in IPSI in my office. Then we will figure that out. But hopefully something good, and I'm excited to see him.
Well,
I think that our kids don't get to eat with us very often, Carl and I, because we're so busy. So we're probably always just on the go like that. I know my daughter's at her volleyball game, and my husband's there, and they're having a good family time. And you know, we might watch Hocus Pocus tonight.
all right. All right, you guys.
How about you, Tyrone? What do you do? What's your dinner?
To be perfectly honest, I think I had something earlier. I'm nursing a bottle of water right now. I'm trying to debate: do I want pizza, or do I want to go in there and mess up some dishes?
Mm-hmm.
So
whenever an attorney says, "I'm going to be honest," I have to say, "Well, don't start now." That's kind of
you know, right. I know that's right. Well, I'm not going to hold y'all too much longer, but I would like to give y'all an opportunity once again to give another campaign pitch. And once again, it will be played on CTN. And we would like to hear some more campaign pitching right quick from the both of you guys before I kind of like wrap our interview up, because I don't want to hold you guys too long. I know y'all busy. And my stomach could get to talking to my mic, and then y'all will think I had a second heartbeat. So Fawn, let's let you have the floor and go ahead and give a good campaign pitch, and also give everybody your information, and go for it.
Okay. So again, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was fun. I enjoyed the questions. I enjoyed that we were just able to chat about issues and topics. And I love that it wasn't so structured and stressful. So this was great. Again, I'm Fawn Armstrong, running for 14A District Court Judge. I also have endorsements. I have lots of judges including Judge Outside from Washtenaw County and Referee Altenberg. I have a lot of different programs and as well, Huron Valley Area Labor Federation, UAW, Region 1A. Those two were huge for me because all of my family worked in unions. My dad, grandma, grandpa, all retired from Ford, all in UAW. My mom actually was in AFL-CIO for 10 years. My grandpa, her dad, for 30 years, and he retired from it. So I was so proud to have those. I also have IBEW, the electrical workers. I have the Michigan Democratic Party Black Caucus's endorsements. Also, and with Karl, have Planned Parent Advocates of Michigan. So just a couple final notes too. One thing that I will bring to the bench if I am elected is not just the experience, but also compassion. I just got married this year, but I was a single mom for 10 years and it's hard. And I wasn't making a lot of money. I was struggling a lot, dealing with carbs breaking down, I lived in my sister's attic for a while. I finally found an apartment. And at this point, again, I'm a lawyer, but I'm making $35,000 a year, struggling. And even starting off at the prosecutor's office, really struggling to get bills paid. So I understand where a lot of people come from, both with my childhood growing up, lower income and struggling, and being a single mom myself. I really think it's important to have a judge there who gets it, who understands, because the judge is going to be issuing sentences, bonds, various things that are really going to affect someone's life. So even just a traffic ticket, hey, you've got this traffic ticket, you owe $100 and something odd, you have to do immediately. Well, I know even myself, that would be hard back in the day when I was starting off as a single mom. That would have been really difficult because I'm paycheck to paycheck. And you got to be able to, as the judge, give people a break sometimes, either work out a different payment plan situation or community service in lieu of fines or something, because you're dealing with real people and real people's lives. And just knowing that, hey, someone's got to deal with daycare or transportation. And when we have court hearings, I think it's very important to keep Zoom going for pre-trials because, again, 14A2, I was there for years when I did district court work. Those are the longest dockets that we have for district. And someone could sit there, especially if they were pro per, unrepresented, they would sit there all day waiting for a case that could take 5 minutes. It's an adjournment. And they're missing a full day of work. And how did they get there, right? Did they have to take public transportation? Did they have to get a ride? Because a lot of them are there for traffic offenses. Maybe they don't have a license. And again, the judge has got to see people for people and know what's going on in their lives, because someone's getting violated on probation. Why? That's what the judge needs to look at and not have these absolutes and just say, well, you didn't do what you're supposed to do, so I'm going to throw you in jail. I'm going to violate you. No, you talk to people. Why didn't you take your drug tests? Maybe we've had this, you're a homeless person, you're struggling, you don't have a job, maybe you didn't have the $12, maybe you don't have your ID. Let's all these things where we can go, okay, let's work with you. And that's what you need, a judge that's going to work with you. But on the opposite ends of that, you also need a judge with that experience of handling serious cases. Because again, this position, it's not just district court, it's not just misdemeanors. You're going to be handling preliminary exams that are felonies, serious cases. And having a judge there who's experienced all of these cases and knows not only, things to look for in terms of, there's a lot of factors, lethality factors we look for when we're dealing with bond, when we're dealing with bond conditions. Is the community going to be safe if we're going to let them out on a PR? Or maybe we need a GPS tether. Maybe you need a GPS tether with home confinement. Right. So all of these things, you need to have not just that instinct, but that experience of going through all of these cases. So just, a couple of quick examples. I've had cases where I've had young people up at the circuit court level and they're 20, 21, 22, something like that. And they're charged with dealing drugs. And those delivery manufacturer crimes or possession with intent to deliver, those offenses, they really can harm somebody. because the delivery manufacturer cases, you cannot get a deferral. You can get a possession if you can get a deferral if you get a possession charge, but not if you're delivering and manufacturing. So is this something where I'm going to, put someone through that and ruin their future for that one mistake? Or am I going to give someone another chance? And that's what I've done as a prosecutor, is I've said, listen, you're young. You had a lot of cocaine on you. This is bad, but you don't have really a criminal record. Let's give you a chance, man. Let's give you this possession, give you this deferral, and now it's on you. But I believe you can do it, and I want you to have a good future. And that's what matters to me. I know that one of my first cases at 14A2 District Court was, so there's a whole domestic violence docket. And this was nothing out of the ordinary domestic violence case, young couple, I think they were around 19 or 20. And there was, of course, the male, was accused and charged with assaulting the female partner. And he was young, and he came and he wanted to accept responsibility, and he wanted to plead. And I said, absolutely, let's give you this deferral. And she's there in the courtroom, and she, is okay with it, and good with that deferral program to keep it off his record. He just has to go through probation, go through his programming, all of those things. So I'm thinking, this is great. This kid is here. He's going to start his life off, really helping. And then they say, well, we would love to remove this no contact order. Right. And I'm thinking, she seems okay with it. He's here accepting responsibility. They're a young couple. Okay. Your Honor, I'm not going to object to removing this no contact order. So appreciative that he's ready to go, ready to step up and take responsibility for this. And they're going to try to work it out together. This is great. And then in between that day and the date of sentencing, he had stabbed her with a machete. And I just felt like I couldn't breathe at that moment, because you take that on, right? You take on all of your cases I had a part in this. And of course, if there was a no contact order or not, perhaps it could have happened regardless. And people violate no contact orders all the time. But that's something that you can't take back. And I believe she survived, and she was saved, and there was a witness that helped her. But man, these are the things that we are dealing with, even at the district court level. These are serious, serious things, and he has to be taken seriously. And you have to be able to take it all in, all of your experience and your knowledge and your instinct, and say, this is a case where we maybe need to take care and have more things in place to make sure that something bad doesn't happen. Maybe you can't prevent everything bad from happening, but you're going to do your best. And so I'm asking for the community to vote for me, because I believe that I have that experience. I have that knowledge and experience and insight into people's lives, into serious criminal cases. I have the empathy, and I believe that you can trust me to make those very serious decisions that affect people's lives every single day. And thank you so much for your time. Oh, again, Fawn Armstrong, running for 14A District Court Judge. So you can find me on Facebook. Just search Fawn Armstrong for Judge. Also www.fawnarmstrongforjudge.com. Fawn is spelled F-A-W-N, just like a baby deer. And reach out to me as well if you just want to call me as well. 810-278-1510. It's 810-278-1510. But probably text me, because I'm all over the place. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Fawn. All right, Karl, your turn.
Thank
sir.
you. For all the listeners out there, you've heard me talk about what I'd like to do with the court, and I'll talk about a little bit more here in a second. But I really would ask and urge people, if you have concerns with the judicial system, particularly in 14A2, please reach out to me and let's talk about it. I would like to hear about it, because I have my ideas of which you've heard, but the solutions are harder to come by than recognizing the problems. I think we could recognize a lot of problems, and we need broader support. We need broader input. I've been at this long enough, 22 years, to know that I don't always have all the answers. And the most important work that we can do will not necessarily be from the ruling with regards to the rulings that I will, which will be very important rulings if I'm elected, and will be very significant to the people's lives. But what we really need is to fix some of these broader problems. I would like to know about if there's something that, hey, why didn't Karl say this? Why didn't he talk about that? Let me know. My number, my cell number, 734-218-4582. Campaign website is Karl at karlbarforjudge.com. My office, same place it's been since before I was born, 1963. Dad's been practicing at the corner of Pearl and Huron, 105 Pearl. People stop by with questions. So I want to briefly mention access to justice, which is a very significant concern. Thankfully, we have a great public defender's office that helps give indigent criminal defendants a defense, but there's also the concern about civil cases, and with regards to that being witnesses and litigants getting there. I am also a proponent of keeping Zoom for a vast majority of things. The only exception may be a criminal defendant and exercising their constitutional rights to be facing their accuser. But I have seen many people from work, in Zoom, and clearly they're on the line in the factory, and for them to appear, they would have had to take that day off work. Be a very significant financial detriment, and they are on Zoom participating in their matter. I believe that's a broad help to the public at large. I believe that based on my growing up in the community, but 22 years of service broad service in the community, inclusive of criminal matters, civil matters, writing laws for the city, enforcing laws for the city in all courts across the county, doing both sides of all levels of criminal cases, that I am the better choice for the community to help keep the community safe, protect people's constitutional rights, and make those tough calls. The community knows me, and I have a higher level of scrutiny because of the work that I have done for the community and out in the public over the past 20 years. People that have known me, and we've navigated a lot of different waters at things on city matters. I believe that broad outreach, that the skills that I have learned by presenting to council for the past 20 years, and how to balance, obviously advise on the law, balance the council members' desires as well as the public. I believe that is the right formula of what you want to see of someone on the bench. I have been in contact with several county board of commissioners with regards to the Rescue Act funding. There's quite a bit of funding that has come through the county that is being allocated. We're trying to secure funding to fully develop the specialty courts through 14A2. And further, there's an initiative afoot to have the county funding to help lower some of the fines and costs with regards to the court, which can be very onerous on the people that are least likely to do or the least able to bear those costs. I'm thankful that the Secretary of State driver responsibility fees have been are no longer, because back when that was happening, it was just pile on. Someone get pulled over because something's wrong with their car. That's okay. That's an expense to fix that. But if you don't fix that, and then it just continues to compound and lose your license, which affects your ability to work. the court must do better, and specifically do better for our community. And with regards to the with regards to race, I attended New Hope with Reverend Roderick Green, and he spoke, and part of what he mentioned was that on race and the vestiges of slavery, and frankly mentioned reparations, and he said that it is different in other countries, that certainly there hasn't been any movement on reparations, but even more insulting, there hasn't been yet even to speak of an apology. And it personally, that is one thing that I can do. I cannot, I'm not a policymaker, I can't get into policy, but I can, for myself, certainly give an apology to those that were affected by slavery and continue to be affected by the systemic vestiges and racism that that I will be actively working to eradicate from the system. Thank you for your time. Please vote for me on absentee ballot or in person on November 8th. And again, I'm Karl Barr. Thank you very much.
All right, y'all, there you have it. We got two of the finest people running for judges right now for 14A. Is it 14A District Court Judge? And I think that either one of you will make a fine judge. And also, I think that by asking you the questions as a parent, that was the setup for this whole dialogue, because it's all surrounding you being a parent. When you're on the bench, you still a parent, because them kids, them adults, you their mama or you their daddy. You're gonna be the cause of their incarceration or their freedom. And we thank you for your service currently, both of you guys, and promise me one thing. And I know y'all can't make no promises on the air, but this is one of the best promises you'll make. When you become the next 14A District Court Judge, will you promise to come back on the show and talk with us again?
I pinky promise.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right, Karl. Thank you for coming on. Fawn, it's been a pleasure. Sir,
Thank you.
eat something tonight, man. I'm about to go eat something too. All right. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.